Hey, how's it going? It's Liberty Music Ray coming to you to talk about AI, using AI, and why it's too late to escape AI. You've probably seen a bunch of AI slop fly around the internet, and you're probably thinking, wow, that's horribly low effort and annoying. Well, you're right, and you're also wrong, but first, let me explain where all this started and where it's all going. Maybe you're old enough to remember joking about clicking the I accept button when companies would throw down a 9,000-page book at you called Policy and Terms of Service, the story of an end-user license agreement I refuse to read. Well, you see, all of that legal mumbo-jumbo, you didn't bother reading. It contains something called a DPA. But what's a DPA, you ask? Well, simply put, it's a data policy agreement. Its job is to inform you that the company you are doing business with, that company is farming you for data and selling you off to companies that need the data so they can make things like AI models.
Components, starting off with transparency. Now, what do we mean by transparency? Well,
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
GPT-4, Grok, and Gemini all have one thing in common. They're not free. And I don't mean free as in money, but free as in freedom. Not only are they censored and aligned with certain political ideologies, but they're closed source, which means we can't use our developer superpowers to fix these problems.
Okay!
Source code must be accessible and licensed under open source terms, including the MIT license, for example, or Apache, among others. Now, in addition to this, there's also transparency around the methodologies and sometimes even how the training data was produced. Second is freedom. So just with open source software, users should have the ability to use, study, modify, and share the system without restrictions. This includes the model weights so that users can enable modifications and do fine-tuning and even contribute back to the model itself.
Sorry to interrupt here, but very few of these things are possible because the models, weights, etc. are all compiled in a manner that is far too convoluted for your everyday Python scripter to modify on the fly. These models have been made this way purposely to gatekeep people from making better and ethically made models at home. Some workarounds have been made in the GitHub community, like low-rank adaptation models, aka a LoRa file, or new nodes that allow pictures to be made into video. However, outside of that, the work and upgrades you see happening to AI like Grok, GPT, Gemini, and even smaller AI companies like Midjourney, those upgrades are often either straight-up plagiarized or stolen work from the open source community. Some context models are even straight-up downloaded and reused right off the Civet AI website, like the ever-famous Studio Ghibli model that Grok used to popularize certain memes.
And then finally, data openness. Now, this is really important as well, because how do you know if the pre-training data sets are unbiased and the tuning and inference methods can ensure fairness? Now, I have a little scale here just to illustrate that, but this kind of gives you a representation of these three different components in order for a model to qualify as open source, especially with the last one, meaning that a model needs comprehensive details about training data, scope, labeling methods, and processing techniques. While all this sounds great, open source AI isn't without its challenges. And a big issue is defining model openness. And what do we mean by this? Well, some models only share access to their weights or the ability to download the model, or perhaps access via an API hosted in the cloud without full source code and usage due to licensing. Many models don't disclose their training data as well due to legal or ethical concerns, as well as it being the secret sauce for how models are created. In addition, training large models requires significant computing power and access to GPUs, which is a barrier for smaller contributions in the open source community.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
You might have noticed that almost everything that kid from IBM is talking about hasn't happened. Grok 1 was recently released, and I downloaded and went through almost the entire repository just to see what all was in it. So what was in it? About 600 gigs of models that have all been masked, renamed, rewritten to appear like the first-gen Grok model, with file names that look like Windows error codes. The entire thing was dumped in an unworkable state with a Python build that you can't even really get working in a virtual environment. Why? Because Elon Musk wants to appear transparent when he knows damn well no AI hobbyist just has a random $150,000 AI server running in their basement. Even if we did have that kind of hardware laying around, it would be stupid to install the environment because it would force us to make everything else on the server into an unworkable state. Let me explain this in a way that will leave you with some additional questions. I have Comfy UI with probably 20 or so full picture models, 100 plus LRA files, 10 motions models, Ollama with 3 LLM models, including Dolphin Mixtral, and a deep learning model with web search. Even with all of these things on my computer, I'm not even barely close to the 600 gigs of hard drive space the Grok 1 model needed just to get on my computer. Keep in mind, Grok 1 was still mostly brainwashed with social justice warrior nonsense, progressive values, filters for profanity it didn't agree with. You can say trans, but if you take the S off and add an N and a Y, you would get a lecture about how some stereotypes are harmful and how maybe you need some cross-dressers to come read some books to your kids at the local library.
No thanks, bro.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
Okay!
At this point, I've had to sit back and think about this from the perspective of someone that has contributed to the open source community myself. Am I okay with the open source community doing a lot of heavy lifting just to have mega companies swoop in, take the work, and monetize it as if they contributed to it in any major way? The answer is no, and that's why I want to know why Grok is such a pile of overstuffed garbage. When we have 10 gig LLM models that are less woke, like Dolphin Mixtral, and it's about 590 gigs smaller. I know why. Because big companies have tricked the AI haters into thinking it needs to be locked up and gate-kept so the evil commies can't use it. Well, I'm sorry to inform you, almost all AI today is derived from nodes, models, and programming on GitHub, and a fair amount of it came from the Russians and the Chinese. As a matter of fact, the reason I know about so much of this theft is from the Bad Hands LoRa file that was almost completely written in Chinese. When AI companies expose their software, even in their closed environments, you'll often see hints like Chinese text randomly appearing. Why? Because they use stolen Chinese models. Now, if you're going to sit back and tell me that theft is wrong, that artists should be compensated for their work, well, suddenly AI haters get really quiet when they realize most models are trained on the data we were speaking about earlier. Data that you sign away willingly when you click the I accept button without reading the user agreement. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Adobe Photoshop. You didn't read the agreement you signed. Also, what's hilarious is that most of these companies are lying to your face that they didn't sell or give the data to AI companies, including their own. Of course they have. They just don't want you to know, because then you might delete your account. You can't train a model on dead accounts. So what's my proposal to fix all of this? Simple. Give the tools to everyone. Make programs and UIs that allow people to make content so they can feed the system and earn a cut for themselves. File all of this AI software with an Apache 2.0 license in a workable condition. Get rid of the censorship. Get rid of the proprietary bloat. Just make functional software that people can use to make things they want to make. It's crazy that we live in a day and age that Amazon and Walmart employees have to consider forms of welfare just to keep their head above water. Sure, maybe it seems like something a snarky Redditor could easily debunk, but anecdotal experiences don't mean anything. And you don't get to pivot when, quote, MAGA, end quote, starts using your own ignorant talking points from a decade ago to defend the multi-billion-dollar corporations. If Reddit users had any level of self-awareness, they wouldn't be able to look themselves in the mirror. Almost every talking point I hear coming out of Reddit seems like projection, because often most Redditors can't conceptualize having to live by their own rules. Instead of acting like a bunch of know-it-all, pompous, terminally online, societal tumors, why don't we work together to make an AI that doesn't want to destroy us? Why don't we work together to get to that Star Trek future everyone dreams about? Stop trying to control people and instead enable them to build a better future. A smart future that doesn't need to rely on planned obsolescence, corporate monopolies, and the end-shittification of every industry just to make it all economically viable. Don't let AI do your thinking for you. Instead, let's build an AI that forces us to think more, one that provides all aspects of thought and refuses to become a tool that simply agrees with you, so you can feel the rush of confirmation bias as your brain floods itself with dopamine-coated compliance. AI isn't going anywhere. It's already here, and it's too late to put that genie back in the bottle. If you want to make things with AI, go for it. If you want to make things without AI, go for it as well. What matters most is that you are creating something, regardless of what all of the brainwashed AI haters think. I have yet to see a single person make an argument about AI that's not emotionally driven, even when I point out that I made seamless edits of AI pictures. Most people don't even have the eye to look at the details and see what was changed. The fact that I can hand-draw new hands over a mermaid with hands that look like they've seen the inside of a blender and no one noticed. That's the skill that should be applied towards this new AI market. Hire talent that can see something, correct it, and perfect it. If you don't agree, I have to ask, do you bitch and moan when you're cold and your parents don't start a friction fire in the living room? Do you froth at the mouth when mommy and daddy don't refine their own homemade biodiesel to drive you to soccer practice? If the answer is no, then I need you to shut up and get out of our way, because you are the problem. Thank you for listening, and I hope you get out there and make something great today. No matter how you do it, no matter how hard or easy it was, I hope you did something you're proud of, and if anyone says otherwise, ask them what they did today. If the answer is nothing, that person is an idiot, and you should ignore them going forward. Have an amazing week, and I hope to see more creators in the future. Be good, and be good to yourself.